ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ नमः शिवाय 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 ॐ नमः शिवाय। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानां करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्. So after having discussed in detail Annamaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha, Manomaya kosha, now we enter into vijñānamaya kosha, intellectual sheath. So each sheath is, inner, and whichever is inner, it is higher. That which is inner is subtler. That which is subtler is inner. That which is inner, subtler, higher controls the lower. Indriyāni parāṇyahuhu indriyebhyah param manah manasastu para buddhihi yo buddheh paratastu saha evam buddheh param buddhva samstabhya atmanam atmana. Conquer your lower by holding on to the higher in you. This is the technique. The sense organs are higher than the sense objects. Mind is higher than the sense organs. Buddhi is higher than the mind. And he, the Supreme Self, is higher than the intellect. Thus, holding on to that self, conquer the lower you with your higher you. This is the technique. So this vijñānamaya kosha, at our personality level, is, we can say, the highest. Just one step below the self, we can say. No, Swamiji, what about Ānandamaya kosha? Everything is done for Ānanda. So in Annamaya kosha also Ānanda is there. We are not going to discuss it separately here. Annamaya kosha, everywhere there is Ānanda. When you yawn, there is Ānanda. Yes or no? Yes. Ānanda is there. When you sneeze, there is Ānanda. When you attend nature's call, also there is Ānanda. Ānanda is there everywhere. There is a lower Ānanda, there is a higher Ānanda, that's all. Everything is done for Ānanda only. While eating, there is Ānanda. This is the Annamaya kosha level. Pranamaya kosha level also there is Ānanda. When you do pranayama, after that how do you feel? Don't you feel a greater Ānanda? After doing yoga, etc. What do you feel? It's a greater Ānanda. Isn't it? Manomaya kosha, when noble emotions possess your mind, there is Ānanda. So they are all Ānandas only, different. So how many types of Ānandas are there? Infinite varieties. In every cell there is Ānanda. Different types of Ānandas are there. When there is intellectual clarity, when you understand something, oh, Swamiji, now it's very clear, Swamiji. How does it express? As Ānanda, isn't it? So at every level there is Ānanda. And at the higher level there is higher Ānanda. So whenever there is a compromise to be made between lower Ānanda and a higher Ānanda, what we do? We give up the lower for the sake of the higher. Suppose somebody is giving you food and you are very hungry. You eat the food, there is Ānanda. But suppose that food is given with disrespect, then you will not eat it, though you are hungry. Why? Because Ānanda at the Annamaya kosha level is lower than Ānanda at the vijñānamaya kosha level. Disrespect, I don't want food, though I am hungry. You see? Rejecting that food gives me greater Ānanda, because self-respect is more important. So, everything is done for Ānanda alone. So now we are entering into this vijñānamaya kosha level. This is very, very important, because everything in life depends on knowledge. Knowledge guides our life. Knowledge is the one which strengthens us. The true strength comes from knowledge. Kathopanishad says a person who has knowledge, everything is fine with him. You see the comparison of the chariot. Atmanam rathinam vidhi shariram rathamevato buddhim tu sarathim vidhi manaf pragrahamevacha indriyani hayanahu vishayansteshu gocharan atmendriyamanoyuktam bhokte tyahurmanishinah. A beautiful comparison, based on which the entire metaphor of Krishna Arjuna chariot is born. Atmanam rathinam vidhi. Consider this jīvātmā to be the owner of the chariot. Shariram ratham. What is this body? It is a chariot. Then buddhim tu sarathim vidhi. Who is the charioteer? Buddhi, intellect. Manaha pragraham, the reins, it is the mind. Indriyani hayan, horses are the sense organs. Vishayansteshu gocharan, what is that path? Vishayas, the sense objects. This is the comparison. Now in this, who is the most important thing? Sarathi. Why? If the chariot has to reach the destination, it is the charioteer who has the greatest responsibility. Charioteer means buddhi. What all things should the charioteer know? He must know about the chariot. He must have the reins with him. He must also know the behavior of the horses. They say the horseman should have a thorough knowledge and a very good relationship with the horse. Only then he can, really reach destination. Only then the horse will cooperate with that person, it is said. You should have a very good relationship with horse. Those people who rear horse, ask them. So, he must have the knowledge of the horses also. He must have the knowledge of the path and also the destination. So, charioteer is a man of knowledge. He is the one who is going to decide everything. And Bhagavan Sri Krishna is seated as charioteer. So you can just imagine to what extent charioteer is important. This charioteer is none other than the buddhi in us, the intellect. This intellect has to be strengthened, made powerful. How do you strengthen the intellect? Intellect is strengthened by giving right knowledge. Knowledge is strength. Knowledge is power. Yastu vijñānavan bhavati yukto yuktena manasa sada tasyendriyani vashyani sadashva iva sarathe yastu vijñānavan bhavati samanaskas sada shuchihi satu tatpadamapnoti yasmad bhuyo na jayate satu tatpadamapnoti yasmad bhuyo na jayate. Vijñānavan. What happens to him? Yuktena manasa sada. A person who is a vijñānavan, knowledgeable person, what will he experience? Yuktena manasa. The mind will cooperate with the intellect, obey the intellect. Yuktena manasa. That mind will never disobey the intellect. It will come readily under the control of the intellect. That mind is ever united with the intellect. Then what will happen? Tasya indriyani vashyani. In such a personality where the mind is unquestioningly obeying the intellect, in such a personality, sense organs, vashyani indriyani, automatically comes under their control. So, the mind comes under the control of the intellect. In such a person, the sense organs also come under the control of the mind. Everywhere there is obedience, there is discipline. Tasya indriyani vashyani sat ashva iva saratehe. As though those horses are well tamed, groomed. So how easily a charioteer can handle a well-groomed horses? There is no problem at all. In the same way, in a personality where intellect is strong, for him he will have no problem in handling his mind or the senses. Satutat padam apnoti. Such a person reaches the highest. Tat Vishnoho paramam padam. That supreme state of Vishnu. Sodhvanav param apnoti. He reaches the end of the road, the ultimate destination. What about the other fellow? Yastu avijñānavan bhavati ayuktena manasa sada. Mind ayukta, not with the intellect. Tasya indriyani avashyani. It is not under one's vasha. Dushta ashva iva saratehe. Like the untamed horses. Just the opposite. Natu tatpadam apnoti samsaram chadhi gacchati. Such a person will never reach the highest. He comes back to samsara. So two categories. Two possibilities. Two paths. The path of return, path of no return. What decides? Vijñānam decides. Knowledge decides. It's very interesting. You know, if you see the reins, on one side you find horses, on the other side you find the charioteer. Now, whom will the reins follow, obey? It depends. If the charioteer is inefficient, the reins will follow the horses. Wherever the horses go, the reins will go. Suppose that there is no charioteer, then the reins will follow the horses. But if the charioteer is efficient, then the horses will follow the reins. Whatever the reins say, that the horses will listen. So everything depends on this entity called a charioteer, buddhi. That's why it is most important. That is why jnana yajña is most important. And that is why Chinmaya mission is most important. You understand? An organization which is dedicated for knowledge. Other things are there, Annadanam, Vastradanam, that is not the main thing. Vidyadanam. Atma Vidyadanam is the most important. Because that decides everything about life. So let us briefly see this spiritual knowledge. Many times we have discussed, I am sure most of you have already listened to all this, but even then, there will be some who have never listened. So in brief, Vedanta in brief. In almost every talk I have given this. So where should we start? Identification theory. What is identification theory? When entity A identifies with entity B, the properties of B appear to be the properties of A. Bhagavan Shankaracharya, while writing Brahma Sutra, he gives his bhashya starts with this. Bhashya on superimposition. Well, this is a fundamental. If you understand this, everything you have understood. When entity A identifies with entity B, the properties of B appear to be the properties of A. So to understand this, what is the example given? Movie theater example. So in the movie theater, you are watching the movie and the hero is miserable. You get totally identified with the hero. That's identification. Now the hero is crying, you are crying, isn't it? The ups and downs of the movie affects you. Why is it that you are affected? Movie is something different. Movie world is different. You have nothing to do with the movie. But that unreal movie world has affected you because what have you done? You have done identification. You identify. You become one with it. You get attached to it. Then whatever happens there starts happening here. Though that and this, they are two different entities. But that can affect this when this identifies with that. This is identification. Right. So you are crying and weeping in the theater, going through the miseries of the hero, going through the unreal miseries of the illusory ego. Right? The real man sitting in the theater, going through the illusory miseries of the illusory entity. He is crying. And now he is praying, God save him. God kill that villain. God let the hero and heroine get married. God. Right, you are miserable. You are miserable. So what you should do? That will come later. Okay. So be there crying. He is called a samsari, crying and weeping fellow for illusory problems. So two entities, A and B. When this person who is watching the movie, A, sees the miserable character and becomes one with that character, the character is B, the properties of B appear to be the properties of A. That hero is crying, that crying property becomes my property. I also cry. This is called identification theory. What is seen there as though becomes my property. So now come to the real world. What are the two entities? Consciousness and matter. What is the property of matter? Anything made of 5 elements is matter. What are the 5 elements? Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jala, Prithvi. It should be in order. Subtler to the grosser. Space, air, fire, water, earth. 5 elements. Anything that is made of 5 elements is matter. So, what all things come under matter? The world that which we see, whole thing is matter. Come one step inside. Body, this is nourished by food. This is also matter. Mind. Mind also is matter because it is nourished by food. When you don't eat food, the mind becomes quiet. That's why people who do upvas, they are very silent. Mentally and physically. No energy. So, mind is made of matter, body is made of matter, world is made of matter. There is only one thing which is not made of matter. What is it? Consciousness. Consciousness. And what is the nature of that consciousness? It is Sat, existence, Chit, sentiency, awareness, Ānanda, bliss. And what do the scriptures say? Oh my dear man, Amrutasya putraha uttishtata jagrata prapya varan nibodhata. Arise, awake to this great truth that you are not the body, you are this consciousness which is eternal, which is immortal, which is bliss absolute, which is absolute perfection. There is nothing imperfect in you. You are already perfect. You are that consciousness. Tattvamasi. But then if I am perfect, if I am immortal, if I am bliss absolute, why is it that I am experiencing imperfection? Instead of experiencing bliss, why am I experiencing miseries, sorrows, sufferings, limitations? So then we say it is because of identification. So I, the infinite consciousness, when I identify with a limited body, what will I experience? Not the infinity of consciousness, but finitude of the body. Because that is a property of identification. When you identify something, the property of that thing becomes your property. It doesn't become, you feel as though. That's the right word. It doesn't become. You just experience, that's all. Right. When the immortal consciousness identifies with a mortal body, the immortal experiences mortality. When the perfect consciousness identifies with the imperfect body, it experiences imperfection. Right. So therefore the problem lies where? In identification. So therefore what is the solution? Disidentification is the solution, that's all. Disidentify from what you are not, identify with what you are. That's all what is needed. Just like in the film theater, you are crying. Prayer is not the solution there. What is the solution in the theater? There is one place where prayer is, useless. Prayer is not the solution. Disidentification is the solution. Yesterday India lost to England in the semi-finals. That it was not a small defeat. It was a 10-wicket defeat. Okay. Now, the intensity of misery will vary from person to person. A person who is not even, nothing will happen to him. But a person who takes it very seriously, he will have a sleepless night. What makes the difference? The intensity of identification makes the difference. Isn't it? So if you want to put an end to that misery, just disidentify yourself. So in the movie theater, you disidentify from the whole movie world. Identify with the real world. Look around. Everybody is crying and weeping. Take out your mobile phone. Play some video games. What happens to sorrow? Gone. Why? Identification is gone. misery related to identification also gone. So what should be the solution? Disidentify from what you are not, identify with what you are. This is what Vedanta says. You are already perfect. You are already Satchidananda. You don't have to create perfection in you. You don't have to build perfection. No, you are already that. You have to just pay attention to the perfection in you. You have to just shift your mind from the imperfect to the perfect. This shifting the mind, this paying attention is what you have to do at the seat of meditation. That's all what need to be done. So the moment you withdraw the attention from the imperfect, you stop experiencing the imperfect. The moment you fix your attention upon the perfect, you start experiencing the perfection. Your experience depends on where your mind is, what you are focusing on. You experience the property of that where your mind is. So then what happens? You start experiencing the properties of consciousness. Consciousness has everything that you are craving for in life. Peace, happiness, joy, contentment, immortality, security. Consciousness is absolutely secure. Nothing can destroy it. So therefore, the freedom, the fear of insecurity goes away. The fear of insecurity goes away. The worries, anxieties, everything goes away. Right. So this knowledge has to be gained. Buddhi has to be trained in thinking this way. You are consciousness. Shift your attention there. Make it a habit to abide in consciousness. This is the purpose of life. This is the only purpose of life. And this will give you liberation from life. This is the way knowledge has to be given. This is the right knowledge. Who has to gain the right knowledge? The intellect. So what is the process of gaining this knowledge? Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. Shravanam, listening to the scriptures. Only when you listen, you know that something like this exists. A person who has never listened to this, how will he know? So first know by listening. Shravanam. What to listen? Listen to the Vedantic scriptures. Listen to the Mahavakyas. Shravanam. So at the end of Shravanam, you must have grasped the essence of the scriptures. What is the essence? Shravanam should not be selective Shravanam. It should be a proper Shravanam. Sometimes people listen to discourses. They are only tuned to jokes or some stories. That is not called Shravanam. So after the talk, they come and say, Swamiji, the talk was very good. What did you understand? Swamiji, it's a joke, you said, oh, it was so good, Swamiji. So good, Swamiji. That is not Shravanam. Shravanam means you must be able to, in one sentence, you must be able to say what has been spoken. Filtering out all those, what you call, props. In the process of trying to make something clear, you might have used so many examples. So after this talk, if you say, Swamiji, that movie example was excellent, Swamiji. That was not the purpose. How you cry and weep in the movie theater. That was not the main theme. Isn't it? This is how people get misled, astrayed. Shravanam is not that easy. If your ragadvesha is strong, you will get carried away in so many things, so many places. The main thing is forgotten, you are gone somewhere. Have to be very, very careful. That's why purity of mind is essential for effective Shravanam. Such things happen. In my talk, I might have criticized someone, praised someone, and suppose you have ragadvesha towards that person, gone. Swamiji has criticized someone whom I revere. Swamiji has praised whom I dislike. Gone. Now your mind is going somewhere. You understand? For proper Shravanam, mind has to be pure. No, that is not the point. Swamiji is not about talking about politics or this or that. No. Swamiji is talking about something else. Let me focus on that. See, that is Shravanam. Purity of mind is essential. So at the end of Shravanam, you must know what has been spoken. So what is being spoken here? Jīvātmā, Paramatma, Aikyam is spoken. This Jīvātmā is not different from Paramatma. This Jīvātmā itself is Paramatma. There is no difference at all between Jiva and Ishvara. Both are one. How they are one? They are one because Jīvātmā is also consciousness, Paramatma is also consciousness. Then what is the difference? Jīvātmā is none other than Paramatma identified with the body. That's all. Consciousness, when it identifies with the body, a third entity is born, which is called as Jīvātmā. So who is Jīvātmā? None other than consciousness, none other than God, none other than Paramatma with a wrong notion. You see? So through Shravanam, you have that clear understanding. Oh, so Shravanam is what? Mahavakya Shravanam is the true Shravanam. But then lot of doubts also come. You have listened, but there are so many doubts. So then you do mananam, you churn. Doubt. What is a doubt? What is samshaya? You have a particular knowledge about yourself, but the received knowledge is not matching with your current knowledge, your existing knowledge. Then comes doubt. And doubt expresses as pain, as absence of Ānanda. You see, everywhere there is Ānanda. There is Shravanānanda also, there is Mananānanda also. What is Mananānanda? When the doubt is clear, there is a joy. Got it. Yes, that joy is called Mananānanda. When there is doubt, there is a pain. Samshaya expresses as a pain in the heart. So what is samshaya? Doubt. You are receiving a knowledge from a trustworthy source, from the scriptures, from the teacher, but that knowledge is not matching with my existing knowledge. For example, my existing knowledge is I am the body, but the scriptures say, no, you are not the body. Naturally a question mark. How come I am not the body? Then the scripture says, you are not the body because you are the observer of the body. The observer is different from the observed. Drashta cannot become equal to drishya. Observed thing is different, observer is different. Therefore, since you are observer of the body, therefore you cannot be this drishya vastu, which is this body. You are drashta. Now you got it. Got it. So, using the logic given by the scriptures, you do mananam, reflection. So what is the end result of mananam? Samshaya nivrittihi, freedom from doubts. Shravanam does ajñāna nivritti, freedom from ignorance. But that knowledge is doubtful knowledge, full of doubts. Mananam remove the samshaya in that. Samshaya nivritti. Okay, now what happens? There is conviction. So with Shravanam you get information. Through Mananam there is conviction. Now there is clarity. After that what should be done? Nididhyasanam. Mere clarity alone will not do. It must be experienced. I say that I am consciousness. Fine, it is doubt-free knowledge, no doubt. I don't have any doubt, that's okay. But you must identify yourself with consciousness to such an extent that you must feel that I am consciousness with a body. Your main identity should be consciousness, main identity. At present, what is our main identity? Body. Our definition about ourselves is I am the body. That definition must change. Experientially change. So as you go on meditating this way, that I am consciousness, then what will happen? Slowly, a new knowledge rises in the mind out of this experience. What is the new knowledge? I am consciousness with a temporary body. I am basically consciousness. I am using one instrument of mine, which is this body. And this instrument will be used as long as this life is there. But basically I am consciousness. I am not a human being with spiritual experience. I am a spiritual being with human experience. You see, there is a huge difference. What are you knowing yourself to be? How are you defining yourself? If you define yourself as the body, punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. If you define yourself as consciousness, then the matter is over. Because consciousness has no birth, no death. It is ever there. Right? So again and again, repeated practice, abhyasa. What abhyasa? Abidance in consciousness. Shifting your attention to consciousness. This is what is nididhyasana. To such an extent that mind is habituated in abiding in consciousness. It has become a habit. It has become its nature. At present, Shravanam is over, Mananam is over, intellectual clarity is there, I am consciousness. But behavior doesn't reflect it. Many times it happens. You know it, but you are not living it. Nididhyasana fills that gap. You remember the joke I had told you about ambulance? So here was this person driving a taxi. One traveler was there at the back. So taxi driver was driving and this person, the traveler, he just tapped him on the shoulder. Sir, and this taxi driver, he got scared, started screaming, almost lost control. He just parked his car and started, panting, exhaustion. So this traveler was shocked. He said, I'm sorry, sir. Then this driver said, no, it's not your mistake. For the last 25 years, I have been driving ambulance carrying dead bodies. Today is the first day. I'm taking a passenger. So therefore, for 25 years, that thing is there. Habitual error, that is called as. Isn't it? Called habitual error. Nididhyasanena vasana nivritti. So this habitual error is there. What is the habitual error? I am the body, I am the body, I am the body. Every action is done with the body, with identification with the body, with karta bhava. So every time you perform an action with this wrong notion that I am the body, the I am the body notion gets strengthened. There's a strong notion. How to get rid of a strong notion? By cultivating an understanding going against this notion. A habit can be overcome only by an anti-habit. A habit going against it. The habit of drinking tea, how can you overcome? By creating a habit of not drinking tea. Okay? Any bad habit has to be overcome by creating a good habit, an anti-habit, which is going against it. So in the same way, I am the body thought has become a habit, has become a deep-rooted notion to such an extent that this notion is appearing real now. Any deep-rooted notion can appear very real and solid. It appears to be a solid reality. It is not solid reality, it is only a solid notion. Notion means wrong understanding. So this wrong notion has to be overcome by right understanding. How to strengthen right understanding? By repeated thinking, repeated vichara, repeated inquiry. Any thought becomes strong by repetition. So right thinking should be made strong by repetition. This process is what is called as nididhyasanam. A time comes when right thinking becomes effortless. Then you don't have to do anything. What is right thinking? I am consciousness. I am eternal consciousness, all-pervading consciousness, all-perfect consciousnness. It is a reality and your mind has been trained to think that way. So once that happens, jiva bhava completely goes away. Remember, jiva bhava is a wrong notion. That goes away. Then you experience Ānanda. In that Ānanda there is no desire. And since there is no desire, there is no need to fulfill any desire. And since there is no need to fulfill any desire, there is no need to come back to this world. We come to this world to fulfill desires. If there is no desire, why should you come? This is called as moksha, mukti, salvation, nirvana, enlightenment, liberation, realization. It's all one and the same. Okay. In the language of devotion, going to Vaikuntha, going to Kailasa. There is no going and coming. It's all nothing but understanding yourself as you are. Bas. Tad Vishnoho paramam padam. Yad gatva na nivartante. There is no coming back. Right. Now the process of meditation we will see tomorrow. Om sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhaved, asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.